Hi students, welcome to lesson 12 on simplify with negative and zero exponents. Sorry. Before we get started, there's two parts to the worksheet again. There's your notes and then there's your assignment. Okay, so just a reminder. Okay, before we get started, I want to explain to you what is negative and zero exponents. Alright, so this is number line. Now I just use 10, we could use any numbers, okay, but we use 10, okay, and we should know what 10 to the 1 power is. It's just 10, 10 to the second power is 100, and 10 to the third power is 1000. Now the number line is not proportional, sorry, didn't have enough room, okay, so as you can see there's a pattern here. You see 3, 2, 1, and then 0. So 10 to the 0 power, it's actually 1. Alright? In fact, anything to the 0 power is 1. Alright? So again, anything to the 0 power is 1. Okay? So what happens if it's negative? A lot of students think that negative exponent actually means negative number. It's actually false. In fact, it's very false because they don't need an exponent to be negative to make a negative number. So, for example, if you want a negative number, you just put a negative number in front of it. It becomes a negative number. Okay? So therefore, negative exponent doesn't mean negative because they don't need it to be. It's really unnecessary. Okay? So what does negative exponent means? It actually means that it makes a number very small. It also can actually mean it makes a number very large. For example, let's just say that you have to deal with this number, and in fact you've probably done that in your calculator before, where you have an answer as something like this. Okay, and this doesn't fit into your calculator, so then you see something like this, like 8.5 times 10 to the negative, let's see here, so like negative 8 power, something like that. Okay, so this is just an easier version to write this. We call this scientific notation. The number can expand a little bit more. Okay, so again, negative number, negative exponent, it doesn't make the number negative. It's just an easier way to write smaller numbers. Okay, and oftentimes negative exponent, it actually is easier to convert that into a fraction and then a decimal. Okay, but for today, you don't need to convert it to a decimal. Just convert it to a fraction. All right. So what does that mean? So for example, like 10 to the negative 1. 10 to the negative 1 is the same thing as, you just make it to a fraction so it becomes a positive exponent. So something like over here, like 1 over 10, like that. Alright? So again, that's the same thing as this, except that since the negative exponent, it's not 10, it's 1 over 10. So a negative exponent, it just makes a number really, really small. It also can actually make a number very large, but anyway, we're not going to do that. We're going to focus on negative exponent, make it into a fraction. Alright? Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with our notes. There are actually 12 problems today for our notes. Okay? Alright. Alright, here's our notes. Again, there is actually 12 problems. We're going to do 8, and then I'm going to erase this and we're going to do 4. Alright? Okay, so again, your goal is to never write an exponent that has a negative exponent or has a zero exponent. So you always want to get rid of the negative, you always want to give the zeros. So today's focus is just doing the negative and zeros today. Alright? Alright, so number 1, again, nothing to do with negative numbers. You're just going to make that number very small, make it into a fraction. Okay? So it actually, today you don't have to expand. We learned in the last lesson, you don't need to. Now if you want to, I think it's a good idea, but you don't have to, okay? So again, I'll make that into a fraction and the negative exponent goes away. Our goal was to make the number into a smaller number, into a fraction. Alright, so it becomes 5 to the second power. Again, you can write it as 5 times 5 right here, but we're just going to go ahead and do it. 5 times 5 is 25. Alright, let's go ahead and move on to number 2. Same thing for number 2. Again, that negative exponent doesn't make that into a negative. You see that one's already negative, so negative exponent doesn't mean negative, it just means make it into a small number. Now that negative is not part of the 2, again it could be part of something else. Okay, so anyway, so I'm going to leave that alone. Alright, so let's rewrite it quickly. I'm going to write it down here. So that's negative, it becomes 1 over 2 to the positive 5 power. Okay, so again that negative stays. This part here turns into this. Alright, Again, that's negative. Again, you could expand, do 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, or you already know what that is, which is, again, you could use your calculator, it becomes 32. Alright? Okay, move on to number 3. Again, a little bit different now, it's parenthesis, okay? So, again, anything in that parenthesis, you want to get rid of negative, so it becomes 1 over that parenthesis into the 4th power. Alright? Inside that parenthesis, negative 3. So again, you want to expand, it means negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3. But today you don't have to, you could just use your calculator and do negative times negative times negative, positive 81. Okay? So again, today's is going to be variable with negative exponent. Your goal is just to get rid of negative exponent, so you're just going to make it into 1 over x to the 3rd power. And then you're done. Alright? Okay, so number 5, this negative 2 has its own exponent. Okay, so ignore that for a second. Just focus on this one here. So again, I get negative 2. And then that becomes 1 over, so times 1 over m to the 4th power. Again, you change that to a positive now because it just made that into a fraction. Okay, so your answer is just negative 2 over m to the 4th power. Alright? Alright, now let's move on to 0 exponent. Again, I said it earlier, anything but a 0 power is just 1. And then you're done. Anything to the 0 power. It could be letters, it could be numbers, it could be a person, it could be anything. Anything to the 0 power is 1. Alright? Okay, anything to the 0 power is 1. That negative is not part of the 5.025. Okay, so that's negative and becomes 1. Alright? Again, doesn't matter what it is, anything to the 0 power is 1. Okay, so whatever this is, turns into 1. And then that's it. Alright. Let's go ahead and move on to number 9. Alright, number 9. 0 power again, you want to get rid of that. And the 0 power is only to the a, so the negative 9 is still there. And that turns into 1, or times 1, that gives you negative 9. Alright? Okay, number 10 has a combo of a negative and a 0 exponent. So you have to do both of them. That 2, just ignore that for a second. That's not part of the 0 or negative. Okay? So I know that turns into a 1. And I know that one, I want to get rid of it, and it turns into a fraction, so it becomes 1 over v to the 3rd, like that. Okay? So negative 2 times 1, that's really easy, it's just negative 2, and then v to the 3rd. Alright? Let's move on to number 11. Again, anything to the 0 power is 1. If you want to, you can just rewrite it like 1 times, and this one here becomes 6. 1 over 6 to the 2nd power, so 1 over 6 to the 2nd power. That turns into 1, this one turns into 1, and then that's just regular b to the 2nd power. And you could just extend the fraction line like that. Alright? So we have here is, let's see here, that gives you 36. So 1 times 1 times 1 and b to the 2nd. I'm still going to give you b to the 2nd because 1 times 1 times 1 is still 1. That gives you 6 to the 2nd power of 36. Okay. Now if you wanted to, a shorter way to do it, and I don't mind you doing, you just slash out the 1. Okay, that turns into 1, that turns into 1. You can ignore it. You don't really need to look at it. Alright? These two, they're both fractional, negative exponent, so I'm making it to a fraction. That becomes 1 over 4 to the 2nd power times 1 over a to the 4th power. Alright? Again, these you'd ignore it to 1 anyway, so 1 times 1 times 1 doesn't change anything. That gives you 16, that gives you a to the 4th, that's 1 times 1, so 1 times 1 is 1, 16, a to the 4th. Alright, and that's conclude our lesson. Now before we go, I just want to say I do notice that some of you guys are now watching the video and then doing a worksheet, and it's completely incorrect. You won't be getting any credit, you won't be getting any score, it'll be an incomplete if you do the worksheet without watching the video, okay? Because I noticed it when I look at your assignment and it's completely incorrect or completely something else that we haven't done or haven't taught you. So please watch the video. You can rewind, fast forward, go back and look at it. It just makes things so much easier. Alright, so I expect to see your notes and your assignment. Please turn both in so I know you actually watched the video. Okay? Alright, that concludes our lesson for the week. You have a great weekend.